Welcome to Xpert Sessions by Xperto. This podcast aims to provide a platform for our partner professional organizations to promote lifelong learning outside the confines of traditional education. If you are a young professional looking to elevate your learning experience through bite-sized content from experts, then this show is for you. Get ready to explore and experience a different side of known professionals in the country, made by the experts for the experts. Okay, welcome to this episode of Xpert Sessions. So for this session, meron tayong two special co-hosts. So we have Brian, and new to this episode, we have Sarah from Finest Media.
Yon.
And then
Glad to be back, bro.
Yes. Oo.
We're happy to be here. And hindi na ako mag-isa. Dalawa na kami co-host. Diba?
Yes, nabitbit natin si Sarah
Ayan.
dito. And for this episode, we have a very special expert guest. So we have Joeffrey Caranto. So Joeffrey Caranto is a distinguished geothermal specialist with an impressive track record. So he is the current president of the National Geothermal Association of the Philippines, or NGAP, and currently assigned as head of business development international at Energy Development Corporation. So previously as head of the exploration and growth team at Energy Development Corporation's Geosciences and Reservoir Engineering Group, he has led the pursuit of high-value projects and effectively managed the company's existing assets. So with a background as a well site and exploration geologist, hydrogeologist, and geology specialist, Jeff has accumulated extensive expertise in Philippines and Indonesia projects. Moreover, he successfully oversaw EDC's project in Chile and Peru, showcasing his international experience and commitment to the geothermal industry's growth. So, welcome, Jeff.
Thanks, Eman. Thanks for
Grabe.
for the kind words and introduction.
Ayan. So, first time namin na actually nagkita ng in person si Jeff kasi it's previously we were just doing virtual events with NGAP. And now, here we are with Jeff. So,
Here we are.
I think we can start with a conversation. Siyempre, doon tayo mag-start ulit on how we...
Saan ba ito nagsimula? Diba? Gusto ko tanong, kasi curious ako, ang haba nung parang hindi resume eh. Parang eting track
CV.
record over the years. And yeah, it's quite impressive.
Thank you.
Have you ever thought, like when you were a kid, that you will be involved in this industry? Gusto kong tanong, curious talaga ako dun eh.
Actually, hindi. Nung nagsimula akong pumasok sa college, wala nga ako ka-idea na kukunin ko geology. Yeah, kasi my brother's a civil engineer. Siya yung nagbigay sa akin ng idea. After graduation ng college, ng high school, usually hindi natin alam kung ano yung gagawin natin, di ba? Sabi ko, sige, engineering na lang kasi yung brother ko, si Kuya Jun, civil engineer. Sabi ko, sige, hanap tayo ng school. No, hindi na nga ako nag-apply kung saan-saan. Then sabi niya, ba't hindi mo subukan ng geology? Sabi ko, ano yun? Theology? Geology daw. Sabi ko, okay. So, we nakahanap kami ng school. Nag-umpisa ako dun sa Adamson before I transferred to UP. Tapos, dun, nung nag-enroll ako, sabi ko, ito pala ang geology. So, after the first sem, tinuloy-tuloy ko na. Kasi,
So, hindi pala yun ang parang by chance or happenstance lang na napunta ka sa kurso na geology.
Dahil sa kapatid ko.
Pero gusto kong tanong, wala any indication that meron kang inclination to what you're doing right now? Nung bata ka, kasi normally, alam mo yun, yung iba lumaki na gusto ko maging doktor. Ganyan. Tapos eventually, hindi man nila ginawa yung gusto nila nung bata sila, pero meron pa ring part of them that they are able to do with what they're doing today. May ganun bang element sa'yo? Like, any core memory mo na indication?
I think nung high school, mas nagkaroon ako ng inclination to sciences. Kaya siguro nung nakita ko yung geology, after the first semester, na-attract ako doon sa course. Kasi it's more about earth science eh.
Mhm. So parang nangyari po nun, parang when you, di ba, first sem pa lang, first year, nagustuhan yun agad yung course. And then parang all throughout the 4 years, hindi naman naisip na parang, or nagdalawang
Para sa atin
isip
ba to?
na baka mag-shift ako sa iba.
Hindi, actually,
Parang you fall in love dun pa lang, first year, first sem.
I immediately fell in love with the course.
What makes Jeff fall in love?
Transition.
Hindi mo expect yun, no? Pero,
Pag-usapan natin yung geology.
yun naman talaga. So what made you fall in love in
In the course.
geology?
Yeah. Sa geology kasi required na mag-field work kami as part of the activities. Kasi geology, mag-aral ka ng bato, mag-aral ka ng mga, akit ka sa bundok, tignan mo yung mga kung ano-anong bato na nandoon. So, hindi mo gagawin sa classroom. So, nung first semester, pumunta kami ng field work. Sabi ko, uy, saya pala nito. Magkakasama kayo ng
Naging field trip.
Oo, parang field trip siya. So, and pagbalik mo, tsaka niya titingnan, ano nga ba yung napag-aralan natin doon? Ibig sabihin nito. So, nagustuhan ko yung ganong sistema. Na, okay, may practical applications, tsaka mayroong conceptual
Fieldwork.
applications.
Oo. So nagustuhan mo yung nai-immerse ka sa
Kaya
nature.
na-inlove ako sa ganun.
Ayan, ang mga in love. The stories, di ba?
And then after you graduate from UP, parang how was your career? Parang how did you choose na doon ako sa industry? Kasi geology, madami kang pwedeng puntahan eh.
Yes. Yeah. As a geologist, actually, it was not very common at that particular time na magkaroon ng mga maraming geologists sa industry. Actually, naging sikat lang yung geologist nung pumutok yung Pinatubo noong 1991. Siguro yung karamihan sa lahat kayo hindi pa pinapanganak ng panahon na yun. But nung pumutok ng Pinatubo, doon nalaman na okay, mayroon palang mga ganitong epekto yung bulkan. Kasi lahat apektado eh. May lahar, mayroong mga ashfall. And nung panahon na yon, ito pala yung trabaho ng mga geologists. So doon sumikat yung Philippine Institute of Volcanology, PHIVOLCS. And then after that, ang dami na naming mga enrollees na pumapasok sa geology. So as a geologist, marami kang mga pwedeng pagpilian. Pwede ka sa mining industry, pwede ka sa environment, pwede ka sa one who studies the ocean, oceanography, for example. Meron kang pwedeng geothermal, which is basically yung heat coming from the earth, which is yun yung ginagawa ko. Hydrogeology, for example, anything about groundwater. So madaming applications in our normal lives yung geology actually. Saan nanggagaling iniinom natin tubig? Pwede ring environment, for example.
Do you think, syempre with your experience already, do you think na nature has a very huge impact sa'yo? Like, kasi sabi mo kanina, gustong-gusto mo yung pupunta ka ng buto. So parang,
Yes.
you feel like nature is calling you, ganun ba?
Yes. So, at saka yung umakit ka ng bundok tapos nandun. Gusto ko yun eh. I mean, lalo nung nagsisimula kami, so nagma-mountain hiking pa kami. Camping ka doon, taka sa isang falls, lakad ka sa ilog, mababasa ka, syempre. But yun yung excitement sa akin. So, I love the outdoors.
Yeah, kasi mga practices like, yun nga, it's understanding ano nangyayari sa paligid and maybe preservation as well.
So, dun sa mga fields of geology, so ano yung napili nyo na puntahan?
Yun din. So, just to go back doon sa tanong mo kanina, after graduation, di rin namin alam kung saan ako pupunta noon, kung saan ako nag-apply. And then it just so happened, si EDC, at that particular time, PNOC EDC pa siya, meron silang opening for 6 positions ng mga bagong graduates kasi nag-expand sila ng operations. So, nag-apply kami, punta kami doon. And then, luckily, after a month, tanggap na kami. So, that's where I started my career. Back in July 4, 1994.
Pinanganak na ako nun.
Bahay na kami nun.
Siguro, ilang buwan ka na nun?
1 year pala, 1 year.
Yeah, so I've been with EDC since then.
Wow,
More than-
first
more than
company.
20.
And first
Yes,
company.
more than 29
Nice.
years.
Very loyal.
Loyal. Talagang
Well,
ano.
Ganun siya ma-in love.
Ganun siya ma-in love. Loyal talaga siya.
Maraming mga ups and downs. May mga pagkakataon din na bumuntik na ka mag-resign. But after a while, pag nagustuhan mo yung ginagawa mo, mag-i-stay ka talaga dun. Diba?
So Jeff, I just wanna ask you, ano ba yung mga hobbies na ginagawa mo that is aligned to your career or profession?
Interesting question. I'm an adventurer. Back in the day, meron pa yung tinatawag nilang Marlboro Adventure Team, where they sponsor activities related to the outdoors. Whitewater rafting, rappelling, rock climbing, for example, hiking sa bundok. So, fortunately, I was one of those 5 representatives from the Philippines na napili to go sa US. So what we did is we did whitewater rafting sa Colorado River. We did 4x4 driving. We did ATVs. We did canyoneering, rappelling, and then rock climbing. So what I do now, that was then.
Ano tawag,
but
sorry, before continue? Marlboro
Adventure Team.
Adventure
Yun
Team.
yung tawag at that time. Or wala na yun kasi di ba nagkaroon na ng mga crackdown on advertisement pagdating sa smoking.
Yes.
Although hindi naman ako smoker. So yeah, but that was
Yun back then.
back
But
then.
right now,
But then I went into I've been very active physically also. I've been playing tennis, badminton, and then went into mountain biking. And now, kaya ganito yung kulay ko kasi I'm doing triathlon.
speaking
Swim,
of,
bike and run.
Actually, hindi ako triathlon. Into OCR naman. Pero habang nagkukwento siya, naisip ko na talaga na yung hiking sa kanya is very basic.
basic lang.
Yeah, kasi pag akyat pa lang niya ng bundok to explore nature, tapos pag-aaralan. So basic talaga nila yun. Hindi siya yung parang requirement. It's a prerequisite of their personality.
Oh.
Yeah, exploring nature, loving nature. Parang feeling ko nga bata pa lang siya, mahilig na siya sa nature. Hindi lang siya categorized or naka brand name na nature lover ako. Pero mahilig na siya sa plants, somewhat, sa tubig, sa ilog, sa putik.
And I think yun nga yung love of natural sciences.
Yes.
Yun, it's a parang innate nature ng mga geologists eh.
In Aussie, si Sarah kasi physically
OCS?
active din to eh.
Yeah, I
So,
do trail running.
OCR is,
Oo.
ano nga bang OCR?
OCR, obstacle course running.
Ayun.
Obstacle course running.
So,
Yun may joke
trail
kami.
running din kasi yun.
Yeah, coming from someone who's also
Ah.
physically active. Yeah.
Nice.
Super love ang nature.
Yun. So that's what I do now. We have a tri-team we call A365. Pina-plug ko na.
I know
Ooh.
them.
Yeah.
Nakasama ko sila sa TVR.
Si
Okay.
X.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and the team. So that's yun yung pinagkakaabalahan ko ngayon. It's more for me, it's more of keeping myself healthy. And also keeping my mind free of, at least for some time, free of stress. My
Yeah.
body free, get free of stress.
Tsaka kahit di mo aminin, it's also a way for you to immerse with nature eh.
That's one. Lalo na when you go biking. Pagka tumatakbo kasi ako or we go on long rides, doon na-free up yung isip ko eh. So, actually in the middle of a run or in the middle of a bike, bigla akong titigil o magte-text ako, teka muna, may naisip ako na kailangan. Trabaho muna, mag-uutos muna ako ng mga kailangan gawin. Kasi doon ako nakakapag-isip ng mga kung ano-ano. So that clears up my mind. Kaya I
Yeah.
like doing it.
So, yun sir, parang you've been with EDC since 1994, tama ba? So, what made you fall in love again dun sa company naman? So, ano yung parang meron sa energy industry na you find it very interesting?
I think ang isa nga sa mga realization ko at that time, lalo na kung makita mo yung product ng pinaghirapan mo, na you're part of the team that actually built the energy at the power plant na nagpo-produce ng electricity. It gives you pride. So, nung unang nakita ko yung steam na lumalabas doon sa power plant, sabi ko, kasama ako dyan. Product namin yan. So, it's been my motivation since then na makapag-contribute. Not just for the company, kasi ang laki din ng impact kasi noon sa communities where we operate. And yung mga projects namin ng EDC are in the provinces. So, sa geothermal kasi very specific siya. Kung nasan yung vulkan or nasan yung heat source, doon mo lang siya pwedeng i-develop. Hindi mo pwedeng i-transfer. So, kung nandoon siya, for example, sa Leyte, malapit sa Ormoc or Kananga, so doon kami pupunta. So, eventually, makikipag-interact ka doon sa communities and you see them grow with you as well, di ba? So, I saw Ormoc City become very developed from where it was back in the days, almost 30 years ago, to where it is now, di ba? And I think also the industry, at least the company, contributed to that growth.
So parang nung 1994 pala, nung pumasa kayo, parang geothermal na agad yung naging focus. Parang the EDC is focusing
Yes.
already in geothermal.
Yes.
Pero how was the situation back then, the energy as compared right now?
Kung natatandaan nyo, after the reign ni President Marcos, din pumasok si Cory, di ba? Pagkatapos ni Cory, pumasok na si Fidel Ramos. Again, baka wala pa kayong mga nun.
Natakal naman sa history.
Hindi nyo pa masyado natatandaan. But ito yung panahon na ang dami nating mga brownouts.
Yes.
Kasi napabayaan yung energy at that particular time. And then pagdating ng panahon ni Mr. Ramos, ang dami na nating mga blackout, kulang tayo sa kuryente. So nagkaroon ng policy ang government na, teka muna, kailangan nating i-address yung issue na yan. So ang isang tiningnan na maging source is maghanap tayo ng locally produced indigenous energy resource na tinatawag nating baseload. When you say baseload, 24/7 open yan. Or 24/7 nagpo-produce yan ng electricity. As compared to pagka sinabi mong intermittent sources of energy, intermittent meaning halimbawa kung meron lang hangin, tsaka lang iikot yung turbina.
Cycle.
Or kung meron lang araw, tsaka lang magpo-produce ng kuryente galing sa solar, di ba? Ito, dahil yung steam nang gagaling sa ilalim, continuously nagpo-produce siya. So yun yung tinatawag na baseload. So yun yung naging yung energy situation at that time. Kaya naging focus saan ba tayo makakahanap ng locally produced indigenous energy resource na makaka-address ng mga problema natin sa kuryente. So geothermal was one of those na natingnan at that time. And after nung development natin sa Leyte, that took the Philippines to the second total installed capacity worldwide, next to the United States. We were at the second in terms of lists of the producing country in terms of geothermal at that particular time. For the longest time, until mga 2018, nung na-surpass na tayo ng Indonesia. So nasa third na tayo ngayon, pero other countries are coming in. Kasi yung geothermal natin, after the strong development natin nung 90s, late 90s, early 80s hanggang late 90s, medyo naging stagnant tayo.
Nag-wane off pa.
Nag-wane off, yeah. Particularly because naiba din yung focus ng government
Priorities,
into other sources of
Pero di ko alam ba,
renewable
parang as
energy.
compared with, di ba, geothermal energy, kayo ba, alam nyo ba kung paano
Hindi ko
napoproduce
alam
yung
noon.
energy?
Nung
Di ba,
kwento na siya.
as compared with yung wind, solar, na parang,
Yeah.
parang sikat siya agad. Pero geothermal, parang hindi siya masyado
Yeah.
Naintindihan.
nadidiscuss or parang, yun nga, na source of energy. Pero as compared with this other source of energy sa ngayon, kunyari, solar, wind, geothermal, parang nasa ano siya? Is it parang more favorable
Form of
source of
energy.
Well, lahat ng renewable energy, yung mga binanggit mo, solar, wind, geothermal, lahat yan puro favorable naman. Favorable in terms of its impact sa environment. Magkakaiba lang yung level of generation in terms of gaano ba kalaki yung na-generate na energy. And how consistent it is. Consistent in terms of maasahan ko ba yan 24 hours? Or habang may araw lang tsaka ko lang maaasahan si solar, di ba? O kung may hangin lang tsaka ko maaasahan si wind. So yun yung mga nuances nung mga renewable energy sources na yan. Hindi masyadong sikat. Siguro hindi ko alam kung bakit siguro hindi rin siya lalo na dito sa Luzon, although may mga malapit na geothermal power plants dito, like Macban for example sa Batangas. Kung nakikita niyo yung steam na lumalabas doon sa may Mount Makiling, minsan pag dumadaan kayo along the expressway, galing sa geothermal power plant yun.
Oh.
Hindi lang siya ganun na advertise as extensively as the solar and wind very recently. Kasi for the last 10 years ng solar and wind dinevelop talaga ng government kaya
Yeah.
nagkaroon ng support. to
Pero ang
that.
ironic, no? Kasi like, puro vulkan tayo dito.
Precisely.
Kasi we're in the, tama ba, Pacific Ring of Fire.
Yes.
So,
Nakikinig ka yata nung
siyempre,
lectures.
shout out sa sa teacher ko no high school.
Yeah.
So, yeah, ironic. Like, one would assume that, actually, yung solar, correct me if I'm wrong, like, these technology na-develop yan sa Western.
Yes.
And parang dito lang na-push na solar, another source of energy.
Yeah.
So, ironic, yeah.
Well, ganun naman talaga ang technology. So and we need to adapt as well. So siyempre yung gobyerno always look into other sources of energy para mapunuan yung ating mga requirements, di ba? So tinignan nila yung wind, tinignan nila yung solar, kaya sinuportahan ng gobyerno yan. And they've been supporting geothermal energy for the longest time kasi 1970s pa lang nagdi-drill na tayo ng napakaraming wells. Tanong mo Eman, paano ba natin nahahanap yan, di ba? So, kung familiar kayo sa oil and gas, di ba pag nagdi-drill ka ng oil, pag nagproduce ka ng oil, nagdi-drill ka ng wells. Ganon din ng geothermal. Kasi we have to drill 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, even 3 kilometers deep into the ground para hanapin mo yung mainit na lugar. Kung saan siya mainit. And yung mga init na yon associated siya doon sa mga lumang bulkan. Hindi yung active Hindi yung mga active na katulad ng pinatubo. No? Hindi natin madidevelop yun kasi iba yung fluid nun. Acidic yun. Maasim siya. Hindi mo siya maproproduce. So, hindi ang hinahanap natin yung tamang-tama lang na edad ng bulkan. Hindi siya masyadong matanda kasi masyado na siyang malamig. O hindi naman siya masyadong bata kasi masyado pa siyang active. So, yung tamang-tama lang. Yun yung mga hinahanap natin. And marami yan sa buong Pilipinas. From North Luzon to Mindanao.
Ganun pala yun, no? Parang oil lang.
Pero what's limit us na magtayo ng madaming geothermal? Kasi ngayon, in-explore nila ba? Nuclear naman energy for the
Yes.
Philippines.
Mhm.
Pero if you're saying nga na, parang all throughout the Philippines, ang dami natin pwedeng maging resource. What's stopping us to use geothermal as our primary source of energy?
Very good question, Eman.
Gusto mo rin malaman?
Sa geothermal kasi, as compared to solar and wind, for example, kailangan mong mag-drill para ma-prove kung meron kang resource o wala. Right?
It's kind of trial and error.
It's not a trial and error. There's science behind it. And we've been very good in looking at that. Kasi we've been doing this for more than almost 40 years sa Pilipinas. But the risks are high in terms of exploration. So you need to explore. Ibig sabihin, you need to spend hundreds of millions of pesos para mag-drill ng wells. And then, tsaka mo malalaman kung may laman yan o wala.
Kung feasible ba?
Precisely. So it's a matter of looking at the risk and looking at the business case.
So parang as compared with other renewable energies, medyo high capital.
High upfront cost. It requires high upfront costs. Kasi sa simula pa lang, magdidrill ako ng 3 wells. Kailangan ko ng 1 billion, for example, pesos. Hindi pa kasama doon yung mga roads and pads. So, kailangan mo ng malaking kapital para ma-produce siya, ma-explore siya. Pagka na-develop mo yon, di ba sabi ko kanina, 24/7 siya.
24/7.
So yung generation level mo ang taas din. So yung return of capital mo, mas mabilis din siya. As compared to, for example, let's compare solar. Nasa 12% lang or maximum 15% ang generation factor niya. Ang capacity factor. Ibig sabihin, you install 100 megawatts pero 15 megawatts lang yung nakukuha mo in terms of equivalent revenue. Kasi 15% lang ang capacity factor niya.
Sa geothermal, ilan na yung capacity
It could
factor?
be 90%. It's 95% sometimes. So, ganun kalaki yung difference. Kumbaga, high risk, high reward. Ganun lang yun. And EDC has been into that business. So, we've been exploring other projects dito sa Pilipinas. And as you mentioned kanina, we've been exploring overseas as well. Primarily because sa Pilipinas, halos na-develop na natin yung mga malalaking mga geothermal resources. Dito, meron pa namang mga natitira although hindi na ganun kalalaki, hindi na katulad ng Leyte. Leyte is 700 megawatt installed. Bacman, for example, ng EDC is 150 megawatts. Malapit na. And then we're expanding pa. So, wala nang ganun kalalaki. Siguro we can find 50, 70, 90 megawatts. Pero hindi na ganun kalalaki na hundreds of megawatts na. So, and part of the company's strategy is also to expand our business, not just locally, but also internationally. Kaya, may office kami sa Indonesia. We still have the office in Chile right now. Pero yung sa Peru, sinara na namin. Primarily because of a lot of reasons.
Pero yun nga pa, sa tingin nyo, this is the right time to go to renewable energy in terms of yung energy situation natin in the Philippines?
Oh, very much so. Not just for the energy situation, but also for the environment. Makikita natin, di ba, for the last several months, all over the world, meron kang fire sa Canada, fire sa Europe, sa Greece, sa Turkey. Heat wave naman dito sa Western Europe, right? Ang daming ulan dito sa Pilipinas, Asia, Taiwan, China, even Hong Kong binabaha. All of these are impact of climate changes. So, and yung mga ibang mga bansa, 'di ba? Ang dami nang pinag-uusapan regarding how to inhibit or address yung impact ng climate changes, yet hindi ganun kalalaki yung mga impact ng ginagawa nilang changes. Like for example, the US hindi siya nag-ratify nung reduction ng CO2. Parang ngayon lang medyo nare-realize niya, okay, sa dami ng impact ngayon sa US, like floods or hurricanes dito sa Western United States, di ba? Nare-realize din niya na apektado rin pala siya. So everyone is affected by it. And I think it's more of right now the strategy is looking into how do we now mitigate yung impact. Kasi it's already here eh. We're already faced with it. Hindi na natin prevent yung climate change na yan. It's already here. So it's all looking at how do we now mitigate ano yung impact na yan. And one way of mitigating it is looking at ways on how to generate energy with reduced CO2 emissions. Kaya sa Pilipinas, meron tayong target net zero emission. Ibig sabihin, yung napoproduce mo na CO2, dapat yun din yung nakakapture mo. So wala kang ini-emit sa atmosphere. We're targeting 2040, 2050.
Can you expound more on that? This is the Philippine strategy, tama ba?
Yes.
For net zero emissions.
Mm-mm.
Can you expound more on that?
Part ng compliance ng Pilipinas doon sa global the direction on addressing climate change is provide nationally determined contributions on how to mitigate yung impact ng climate change. And big part of that is reducing yung CO2. Kasi 'di ba doon sa mga pag-aaral, malabas na yung CO2 yung pinakamalaking contribution ng climate change sa change ng climate.
Yung sa energy industry natin, which is a big parang contributor.
Yes. Kung titignan mo yung energy industry natin, yung mix ng energy industry natin, ang pinakamalaking contributor pa rin ngayon, coal, which is the biggest emitter of CO2, right? More than 50% of that is coal. Big part of that is hydro. So kung ang tinitingnan ngayon is, meron ding gas doon, but gas emits less CO2 than coal. So the government priority now is to increase yung contribution from renewable energy and reduce yung contribution from coal. Not totally zero it kasi hindi mo masi-zero yung contribution na yun dahil wala kang pampalit di ba? But limit it to a way na yung emission mo would be net zero na kung ano yung nako-contribute ng coal is naka-capture or basically naka-capture din ng environment kung saan siya nag-ooperate, like having more trees for example to capture CO2. Yeah.
Sa akin po ba, kunyari 100% yung energy source sa Philippines, how many percent pa ngayon yung coal and how many percent yung renewable and how many percent of that is from geothermal? May idea kayo?
Yeah, right now ang geothermal natin nasa mga 11%. It used to be 15 years ago, it used to be 18%. Since nag-increase na yung iba, yung kung titingnan mo yung totals, therefore lumiit na yung contribution ng geothermal kasi halos flat na tayo sa geothermal. So from 20% more than 20 years ago, naging 11% na lang siya ngayon in terms of country contribution sa geothermal. But with all the renewable energy installation sa Pilipinas, ang pinakamalaking generator ng energy is geothermal pa din. Maski na mas matataas yung mga installed capacity ng iba like hydro for example. Mas malaki yung installed capacity niya. Installed meaning like for example, meron kang 3,000 megawatts na installed ng hydro pero hindi nila ma-produce yung 300 na yon kasi ang capacity factor niya mas mababa. So in terms of total generation, pinakamalaki pa rin ang contribution ng geothermal. So yun yung programa ng gobyerno and the Department of Energy and all the other government agencies involved dito sa making sure that we reduce our contributions doon sa greenhouse gases are all working together to address yung mga impacts na yan ng climate change.
So I guess let's go geothermal.
Kaya din 'di ba, ang dami nang lumalabas ngayon ng mga EV for example.
Yes.
Because sinasabi nila big emitters din ang cars or ang vehicles.
Pero parang what's next naman with sa geothermal industry sa Philippines? Parang na-mention nyo kanina parang almost flatline na ba siya?
Yeah.
Parang meron ba tayo na-expect na parang we will be developing more wells?
Yes.
Are there plans? Like
Actually, there are ongoing plans, not just plans, but implementation of additional capacities. EDC has been very active there. For the last 2 years, we've been implementing additional capacities in terms of generating more from the steam or the brine that we have. So we're installing additional power plants right now. Construction are ongoing in Bacman, in Legazpi, in Sorsogon area. We will be constructing additional capacities dito sa Leyte. We're now doing another project sa Northern Negros, sa may Bacolod area. And also another capacity dito sa Bacman, sa Sorsogon. So we're adding 80 to 100 megawatts for the
So
next
parang
2
we're
years.
expecting parang an increase share of the...
Yes. And part of that also is what NGAP does. The National Geothermal Association of the Philippines is to help promote the development, the exploration and development of this geothermal energy. Kaya kami nandito as the National Geothermal Association because all the companies and associations in the Philippines, there are individuals or companies that are involved in geothermal energy exploration and development have formed this association since 20 years ago. And we're the ones who are advocating or doing all this advocacy work with the government to help promote the development ng geothermal. More geothermal energy sa Pilipinas. Kaya
So-
very active kami dyan. So we've been discussing a lot with the DOE. May mga bago silang policies na pinapasok ngayon that will help promote geothermal din.
Gusto kong tanong, do you just work with the government for like having a net zero emission, or do you also work with private companies or corporations?
We have collaboration with other corporations, with other companies as well. Since we sell electricity, may mga companies that get energy directly from us.
Kasi parang
Because
may law na
they would prefer
Oo.
to get energy from a renewable energy producer, for example. So
So
we have
parang-
companies like Unilever, for example, Coca-Cola, who get
Yeah.
their energy from EDC.
Yeah, exactly. Kasi may I think there's a new law na parang to offset yung the waste that they produce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Part yun nung Renewable Energy Act that states that meron kang option, the buyer or the consumer has the option to select kung saan niya kukunin yung kanyang energy.
Interesting. Can you expound? You mentioned about NGAP. No?
Yeah.
What other initiatives does NGAP do?
So on top of our very active advocacy work with the Department of Energy, we work a lot with them and looking at how do we now enhance policies. May existing policies naman ng gobyerno. Yung iba lang kailangan nating enhance. Or we make recommendations on how we can address some of the risks associated with it. I mentioned kanina, ang pinakamalaking risk ng geothermal is exploration. Right? So we're working with the government now and the Asian Development Bank in coming up with mitigations on how to address yung exploration risks na yun. Kasi ang pinakamalaking hurdle ngayon ng mga geothermal developers is how to get that money to drill the wells and prove that there's a resource there. Sabi ko, if we drill 3 wells, we have to spend 1 billion pesos, diba? So that's how expensive it is. So kailangan ng support then, not just from the government but also from other multilateral banks like Asian Development Bank.
And apart from that, I heard you are conducting conferences. Tama ba?
Yes. Yeah, actually, this is going to be the first conference, face-to-face conference that we will have after the pandemic. The first one, we called it the first Philippine International Geothermal Conference because it was the first that was organized by NGAP. But this conference has been going on for almost 30 years with PNOC EDC at that time. So when NGAP organized it in 2019, that was the first na face-to-face. And then pandemic happened. And then luckily, we got introduced to Eman here of Xpert noong 2020. And we said, okay, let's do the virtual conference. And we've been doing the virtual conference with Xperto for the last 3 years, diba? Until last year, 2022. And we decided na, okay, it's about time na since nag-normalize na, we do it face-to-face. Kasi everyone is clamoring for it. Even in 2022, everyone was asking.
So this will be on the dates, sir, is September
27 and
28.
28, yes. It's going to happen at SMX Aura at BGC. It will be attended by a lot of international and local participants. We actually have 35 technical papers. More than half of that, about 20, are coming from international presenters. So we have attendees coming from New Zealand, from the US, from Japan, from Europe. Yes, we have.
Do you have like a central theme for this conference this year?
Yes, we call it 3G. Ano nga ba yun, Eman?
Yeah.
Ang tawag natin doon is greener geothermal generation. Primarily because we wanted to focus on environment, social, and governance this year. For the last several years, we've been focusing, Eman, on technologies.
Technology,
for example, exploration and development, lower temperature systems. Right now, last year, we got feedback from other attendees na bakit hindi tayo mag-focus naman sa ibang aspeto? Kasi it's not just about the technical part. So we thought of focusing, having a special session on ESG. Kaya we will have one special session focusing on that particular. But we will have the other presentations on the usual aspects or topics that we,
Which is on technology.
that we
So,
have
yeah.
on
Quick question
geothermal.
relative to that. Do you think ba yung sa implementation natin on kunya yung mga net zero emissions, implementation of renewable energy, even the geothermal, gaano kalaking factor yung 'di ba? Technical, sabi natin, 'di ba? Parang ang dami nating na-present na technical papers na these are okay. Pero in terms of implementation, gaano kalaking factor yung about governance, about politics? How does it affect the other part?
It's a big factor. It's actually in some cases or in most cases nagiging make or break siya. Kasi lalo na kung walang support ang government doon sa implementation, even on getting permits, for example. Hindi kami pwede magtayo ng planta or gumawa ng kalsada kung walang permits from the local indigenous people, for example, or even the local government. And the support of the national government is very important in making sure that these projects go through. No? So it's very important. And we need to do more. Madami namang efforts on the part of our government in making sure that yung mga processes are are aligned and also implemented properly or even optimized. Kaya lang minsan may mga nuances pa rin na hindi na-implement. For example, meron tayong EVOS law, yung virtual one-stop shop, di ba? Nasabi, dyan, pagka nilagay mo yan dyan, in 1 month, dapat makuha mo na yung permit mo. Otherwise, it's deemed approved. Pero may mga nuances in between na, teka muna, meron palang 3 months pa dito, may 3 months doon. So, may konti pang mga setbacks. But at least may mga ganong efforts ang gobyerno to
Kaya pala
make
na it's also like gonna be part or included sa
Kaya ang ganda
this-
ang ganda ng theme ng this
Oo.
year's conference.
this conference.
Yes. So,
Integration na ng ganun. Kasi it's really part of how we're gonna bring this to the next level, kumbaga na in terms of the geothermal
yeah.
industry.
At saka yung development kasi ngayon ng whatever industry, always involve yung stakeholders within the area that they operate, di ba? And it involves yung mga local people, for example, and even the local government. It's very important to have that harmony within the other stakeholders. Otherwise, hindi magmo-move yung project.
Ang tanong ko, Jeff, is may slots pa ba? At pwede
I
ba
was about to ask
Oo nga
nga.
eh.
Is it
Pwede
open to
bang-
everyone?
Sa
pwede bang,
conference, you mean?
pwede bang
Yeah.
umattend in someone who's interested, this is
Nature lover
interesting.
lang. Parang
Nature
ganun.
lover, for
Yeah.
example. Diba? Kasi it might be interesting for someone who's gonna watch
Yeah.
the podcast.
Well, we hope we can have more. Ano? Tatanungin ko si Jem later. No? Jem, make sure we still have some slots. But since overwhelming yung support, we have more than 25, 26 sponsors from local and overseas. So ang daming actually pupunta dito. Even we're doing this in collaboration with other agencies like the New Zealand Embassy, for example. We have a pre-conference workshop that's happening, going to be attended by I think 60 people before the conference itself. So may mga ganung activities. Kaya ang daming mga attendees and ang daming mga nag-show ng interest. So may capacity limitation lang din kasi yung venue na nakuha natin, man.
Paubos
Mga
na. Naku,
300
habol na
lang
kayo
yun. So
dyan.
hopefully we can get more confirmation dun sa mga availability ng slots in the next couple of weeks before the conference itself. So hopefully meron pa tayong
Ayan. So,
makuha
yan.
kay Jem ng mga slots.
So we're looking forward for the conference, the Philippine International Geothermal Conference. And yun, it's an annual event naman. So if they will not be able to attend this year, so may next year pa. And siguro before we end this
Conclude,
session, siguro last question ko is, for those who are aspiring to be involved with geothermal industry, parang meron pa bang opportunity here in the Philippines, and what are dapat yung, kasi wala naman tayong geothermal na course talaga, so parang for those who wants to be ano yung parang career path, or parang ano yung course na dapat kinukuha ng for those who wants to be in that industry.
In that industry. Yeah, of course, madaming opportunities. Sa EDC, for example, hindi lang naman geologist yung mga hinahire natin. Meron kaming mga engineers, chemists, mechanical engineers, civil engineers. So there's a lot of the engineering and the sciences are part of the team ng EDC. And if you're interested, there will always be opportunities to work in this type of environment, this industry. Obviously, it's not oil and gas. There's a lot of similarities, but we're in the renewable energy industry. So if your conviction is going to that, is pursuing that career path, then I think EDC is one of the options.
So very interesting industry.
Yeah. And with that, I think we have exhausted all our time. We'd like to thank you, Jeff, for being here. Eman, anything you want to say?
Ayan. Thank you, Jeff, for being part of Xpert sessions, and hopefully we can have another session again with you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you too for inviting me.
Again, thank you, Brian and Sarah. Okay, on to the
Everybody,
next
let's
session.
go geothermal.
Thank you for learning with us in this episode. If you are an organization planning to have a streamlined event management system so that you can mount your events worry-free, you may reach us via the link or the QR code shown on your screen. It's time for you to experience the digital transformation and automation with a single press of a button.
We will see you on the next episode.